Now the retelling world's End Harem. In the year 2040, Reito Mizuhara's life takes a drastic turn when he falls victim to multiple sclerosis. With no cure in sight, he undergoes cryogenic preservation. 5 years onward, a miraculous recovery is orchestrated by Mira Suwa, who awakens him from his frozen slumber. Mira unravels the chilling truth: the male killer virus, a plague that materialized 4 years ago, decimated the male population, sparing only 5 immune men who were subjected to the same cryogenic sleep. Their new mission is clear: to father children and avert the extinction of humanity. Initially incredulous, Reito ventures outdoors only to be ambushed by frenzied women consumed by uncontrollable desires. A timely intervention rescues him from the chaos. His sister, Mahiro, now in her teenage years, arrives to reveal that their brother Ryo had also contracted the virus, compelling his preservation as a life-saving measure. Further revelations emerge as Mahiro discloses the puzzling disappearance of Elisa Tachibana, their childhood friend, 3 years prior. Under the shroud of nightfall, Mira seeks to kindle a different kind of warmth with Reito, albeit met with rejection as he declines her advances. The dawn brings with it a bizarre display as Mira presents a procession of bathing beauties, prompting Reito to select a partner for conception. Overwhelmed by this unconventional proposition, Reito's heart remains unwavering in its desire to find Elisa, the sole woman he envisions sharing parenthood with. Mira, acknowledging his quest, acquiesces to his wishes, committing to assist in locating Elisa. However, she conditions this promise, asserting that until Elisa is found, Reito will be accompanied by a different woman each night. Kyoji Hino, one of the 5 immune men, takes pleasure in his newfound existence and engages in a romantic liaison with the actress Rina Kitayama. Following a meal shared by Reito, Mahiro, and Mira, Reito's path intersects with Hino's. Hino, adopting a derisive tone, taunts Reito for his initial reservations. Subsequently, Akane Ryuzuji stages a surprise encounter in the shower, orchestrating a provocative endeavor. However, Reito succumbs to a fainting spell, necessitating his transportation to his room. With little choice in the matter, Reito finds himself participating in platonic slumber alongside Akane and Sui Yamada. This unforeseen arrangement stems from Mira's change of heart, leading her to designate them as Reito's companions for the night. The sun's return heralds a day of investigation as Reito, Mira, Akane, and Sui converge upon Elisa's former laboratory, their collective pursuit of clues interrupted by the unexpected presence of an escaped bear. Yet, swift action from Sui incapacitates the creature. The revelation that Elisa dedicated her efforts to crafting a remedy for the male killer virus prompts Reito to make a resolute choice. He resolves to continue her unfinished work. This determination propels him onto the public stage, where he articulates his purpose on the news. In the aftermath of a chastisement from Mahiro, Reito encounters an unexpected message concealed within Elisa's treasured teddy bear. The recording exposes the male killer virus as a deliberate creation, a sinister man-made biological weapon. This revelation weighs heavily on Reito, who subsequently confides in Mira, drawing parallels between her and Elisa. In a sincere expression of remorse for his inability to contribute offspring, Reito receives an unexpected response from Mira. She acknowledges that pursuing a cure holds more promise than adhering to a prescribed mandate. Meanwhile, a council of women orchestrates a clandestine discussion regarding Reito as a threat to their dominion. To counteract this perceived threat, they set in motion the revival of another man poised to alter the status quo. In 2040, Shota Doi is tormented by the bully Takamatsu, his girlfriend Erika, and his gang, and his only allies are his sister Mayu and his teacher Yuzuki Hanyu. He contracts an illness and is frozen, growing resentful when his classmates do not care and walk out during his goodbye speech. He is cured and revived 5 years later by Karen Kamaya, who explains about the MK virus and that Mayu went missing. He resumes class in his old school and reunites with Yuzuki, who seduces him. He starts to bond with other girls but gets injured by a stray volleyball. Yuzuki treats and seduces him again, while they admit they have always loved each other. Karen later reports to her superiors, who ask why they had to reopen the old school. She says Shota and the girls do not know about Hino and Reito, so they think Shota is the last man on Earth. As such, they will use them as pawns in their scheme to take over the world. Shota has been sleeping with Yuzuki every day. 1 week later, Karen drags him to swimming class. Natsuo Chijo is later assigned to be his temporary roommate. After Shota helps her get dressed, she confesses that her father gave her an arranged marriage to a much older man until they were both killed by the MK virus. She then seduces him. Meanwhile, Reito is working on the cure when Mira informs him that Mahiro works at a refugee shelter. However, she warns him that if others discover Mahiro is his sister, she may be endangered. Reito meets Hino, who reveals he has impregnated one of his girls. When Yuzuki returns, Shota confesses that he slept with Ichijo and begs for forgiveness, but she says they all know and he belongs to everyone. He confronts Karen and demands answers. She takes him before the class and says she reopened his old school to make him comfortable so he would mate and repopulate the planet. All the girls then strip naked before him. The council says that since Reito refuses to mate, Mira is useless and will be removed from her post. Reito has a month to make the cure before he must mate. Meanwhile, Mira is fired as Reito's attendant even though she is allowed to stay, and is replaced by Rei Katajiri, who appears hostile towards him. Additionally, Reito is partnered with the shy virologist Maria Kuroda. The group then travels to Keimon City, where the MK virus emerged, to interview Taniguchi, the hospitalized widow of the virus' first victim. Taniguchi refuses to cooperate and mocks Reito for not mating. When they leave, it is revealed that Taniguchi is in contact with Elisa and wonders why Elisa will not reveal herself. In a hotel sauna, an American named Chloe attempts to seduce Reito and tricks him into kissing her just as the others walk in, angering them. Later, Mira talks with Taniguchi about Reito's honor and convinces her to share what she knows. However, someone sneaks in and poisons her tube, leaving her in critical condition. Before losing consciousness, Taniguchi asks that a photo of her and her husband be given to Reito. Reito, Sui, and Maria investigate the abandoned hospital where the first victim was treated but do not find anything. Akane deduces that Taniguchi was poisoned and suspects Rei. Reito scans the photo and finds incomplete blueprints of the MK virus design. Akane and Maria later warn him that people working on the cure mysteriously disappear. Meanwhile, bored with his harem, Hino spots Mahiru and chooses her as his next bed partner. His attendant Naniko informs Reito and Mahiru, who protest that she is only 16 but agree to a lunch date with Reito attending. The council orders Reito to distribute rations as a publicity stunt, while Akane reveals their leader Kihara is her mother. Rei then confesses her love to Mira but is rejected. As Reito passes out rations, a sniper attempts to kill him but is stopped by Rei's sister. At the lunch date, Mahiru rejects Hino, depressing him, but he sleeps with his jealous harem to placate them. Reito, Maria, Sui, and Akane discover that many of the missing doctors passed by the abandoned hospital. Karen tells Shota he cannot leave the school until he graduates. Later, the class draws lots to choose his new roommate. Rika Yanagi wins, but he runs away to the teacher's lounge because she resembles Erika. Shunka Hiragi walks in and bonds with him by revealing she also used to be bullied. She then seduces him. Rika complains it was supposed to be her turn and fights Shunka, so Shota runs away again. He calls Yuzuki but gets no answer. Akira Tadu, the one who hit him with the volleyball, apologizes and seduces him. Karen makes a new arrangement where a girl will be assigned as his servant daily. After kissing Rika, he trips and scrapes his hand. After getting treated, Karen orders Ichijo, Shunka, and Akira to sleep with him simultaneously. Karen informs him that Yuzuki moved away, angering him. Over the next few days, he becomes more sexually aggressive with the girls. One day, Cheyenne Hashino, one of the girls who regularly ignored him when he was bullied, transfers in, shocking him. Cheyenne asks several people for help, but the girls refuse due to her age. Karen explains Cheyenne tried to become an actress, but due to the MK virus, she can only get a role if she mates with Shota. Still angry about her ignoring him, he humiliates her by forcing her to come to class in her underwear before he mates with her in public. Afterward, Shota asks Karen to find someone and bring her to him. Meanwhile, Reito's group speculates the abandoned hospital is where the virus originated. Karen tells the girls to compete to become Shota's main wife. He later sleeps with several girls in various places. He brings one to his room, where Erika sits collared and acting like a dog. He asks her what happened to Takamatsu, but she does not know. Reito's group returns to the abandoned hospital, and he suspects there may be clues to Elisa's location. American mercenaries led by Ms. Pope and Ms. Mansfield seek to acquire Reito. Reito's group explores the abandoned hospital where Sui accidentally breaks a wall to reveal an air duct. They crawl through it and fall into an underground laboratory. The people inside try to kill them but are killed by the mercenaries led by Chloe, aka Ms. Mansfield. They find a time bomb and are forced to escape in a helicopter as the lab is destroyed. Ms. Pope meets the council and arrests them after deducing the MK virus was created under their orders. Chloe reveals Elisa is a member of a terrorist group, shocking Reito. As Shota sleeps with several girls at once, Cheyenne attempts to escape the school but is apprehended by Karen. Shota returns to his room and takes pity on a sleeping Erika, covering her with a blanket. Suddenly, the school is rocked by explosions. Reito's group sees the explosions while Chloe is informed terrorists have kidnapped a man. Shota wakes up in the hospital where Karen explains terrorists tried and failed to kidnap him. She is surprised that he shielded Erika and reveals there are other men out there. He asks her why she does not sleep with him, and she says she wants to rule the world. He agrees to help her. Elisa's terrorists abducted a man in stasis, Zen Kinabuchi. Chloe's group takes over Japan and orders Hino to stop mating until the terrorists are dealt with. He agrees but is angered when Chloe separates him from his girls. Akane reveals Kihara and the other council members will be put on trial for creating the MK virus, so Reito helps her visit her mother's cell. Elisa hacks the airwaves to reveal her group is called Izanami, who are not terrorists but a group of rebels against the UW. They claim all the world leaders created the virus to wipe out men and create a world of only women, and that Izanami aims to save the men. They demand all the men in stasis and those awake to be turned over to them. Reito's group decides Chloe cannot be trusted and that they must escape. They suddenly find Shota and Karen in Reito's room. In a flashback, Karen performed a procedure on Shota to make him slightly older and no longer need glasses. Back in the present, they meet Chloe and bring Shota's girls with them, briefly reuniting Maria with her little sister, Shifuyu. Meanwhile, Reito meets Mira and urges her to escape with them, but she will only agree if he mates with her, which he refuses. Suddenly, Miss Pope arrests them, Akane and Sway, saying they will be taken to America, but Rei and Maria knock her out, and they escape to Maharu's shelter. Shota and Karen make a deal with Chloe to allow Shota to keep mating and make Karen the ruler of Japan. Reito's group gets on a ship owned by Izanami headed to Taiwan. But Rei and Mira stay behind and are arrested. Hino calls Reito and wishes him luck, but he will not leave his girls, whom Chloe imprisoned, behind. Chloe has Miss Pope stripped and whipped for her failure, saying she will wipe out all men. After Shota sleeps with his girls, he spots the imprisoned Rina and chooses her as his next conquest. The ship lands where Reito finally reunites with Elisa. Now the retelling, My Dress-Up Darling. Wakana Gojo is an insecure but passionate Hina doll tailor. Due to his hobby, Gojo isolates himself out of fear of being ridiculed. One day, Gojo meets Marin Kitagawa, a popular classmate. While he is on cleaning duty after school, Kitagawa arrives, and they have a conversation where she tells him he needs to be honest about his true feelings. That night, Gojo reflects on what Kitagawa had told him. When his sewing machine stops working, his grandfather expresses his desire to buy a new one. While a new machine is being delivered, Gojo decides to use the one present in his school sewing room. However, Kitagawa arrives, and instead of laughing at him, she expresses her admiration for his tailoring skills. Suddenly, Kitagawa removes her clothes and shows Gojo a cosplay outfit of a video game character she has been working on, which he inadvertently berates. She then asks him if he might be able to make one, explaining how important the character Shizuku Kuro is to her. Despite having never done clothing for a real person before, Gojo agrees to assist her and promises to do his best, much to Kitagawa's delight. Kitagawa explains her desire to cosplay as Shizuku, a female character from the erotic video game Slippery Girls 2, leaving Gojo perplexed. She then explains gender does not matter when one enjoys doing something, to which he agrees. Afterward, she gives him an instruction booklet on making cosplay outfits. The next day, an eager Kitagawa unexpectedly arrives at Gojo's shop. Gojo feels uneasy about taking her measurements while naked, but an unfazed Kitagawa stripped down to reveal she came wearing a bathing suit. When he inquires if she finds this embarrassing, she responds she is not. As such, Gojo pushes his impure thoughts aside and begins measuring Kitagawa more professionally. Despite his concentration, a flustered Gojo has difficulty measuring her bust and inseam, though he eventually obtains the complete measurements. Gojo then asks Kitagawa if she has any references for Shizuku, prompting her to give him both Slippery Girls titles. Later that night, Gojo plays the games for research, much to his grandfather's dismay. The night before returning to school, Gojo has a vivid wet dream about Kitagawa. At school, Gojo evades Kitagawa for most of the day. She finally manages to find him at the school entrance and asks if he wants to go shopping for the materials needed for the outfit. However, Gojo reluctantly refuses. When Kitagawa finds him again, Gojo explains why he left. Seeing his low self-esteem, she assures him they are friends. They head to multiple stores to shop. Later that night, they head to a ramen shop where they embarrass and worry the other customers when they discuss the Slippery Girls games. Walking back, Gojo tells Kitagawa because of his line of work, he can only call things beautiful or pretty when he truly means it. Before they part ways, Kitagawa mentions an upcoming cosplay event will be in 2 weeks. Seeing what little time he has, Gojo becomes worried. Now the next cosplay event is in 2 weeks. Gojo becomes stressed. When he heads home, his grandfather falls over after seeing one of the contents in Gojo's bag as it fell out. As such, Gojo takes him to the hospital where his cousin, Miori, joins him. At school, Gojo explains what happened to Kitagawa. Genuinely worried, she tells him she wants to help him in any way possible, so they exchange their contact information. Thanks to all the tasks he had to do, an exhausted Gojo becomes distraught until he remembers a conversation he had with his grandfather, which reinvigorates him. The next day, Gojo tells Kitagawa he finished the outfit, much to her surprise. When she admits she did not clearly convey the situation to him, Gojo is relieved to know he still has time to complete the outfit. However, Kitagawa breaks down crying and apologizes profusely. Gojo manages to calm her down by telling her it will be worth it if she is happy with the outfit. When Kitagawa puts it on, she is immensely pleased with the results. Kitagawa excitedly asks Gojo to take some pictures pictures of her. When he does, he asks her to pose more as Shizuku would. Once she is happy with the results, Kitagawa uploads the pictures on social media. She then tells Gojo they shall attend a cosplay event the following day. Kitagawa is incredibly excited when they arrive there, while Gojo is more restrained. Later, several attendees approach Kitagawa to take her picture. While he watches Kitagawa have fun, Gojo begins to wonder if this will be the last time they will hang out together since he fulfilled his promise. When they reunite, she explains her dress is becoming uncomfortable due to the intense heat, so they head inside to cool off and alleviate her stress. Feeling better, Kitagawa tells Gojo they shall return to the plaza one last time before leaving. She meets with a lady who had asked her for a picture earlier. When they head home, Kitagawa asks Gojo what cosplay they should work on next, much to his relief. A drowsy Gojo then tells her she looks beautiful. Kitagawa is stunned as she remembers what Gojo previously said concerning this issue. Gojo's grandfather returns home, and he is shocked when he sees Gojo and Kitagawa hanging out together. Once they clear up the situation, Kitagawa realizes she has fallen in love with Gojo. Kitagawa tells Gojo and his grandfather about her family situation and questionable eating habits as they eat dinner. The next day, a young girl arrives at the shop during a downpour, and Gojo's grandfather invites her inside. Following an embarrassing first meeting and misunderstanding between them, Sejuna Inui eventually tells Gojo she wants to commission a cosplay outfit, revealing that she is Juju, the cosplayer Kitagawa previously mentioned. When Kitagawa arrives, she is starstruck by Juju's presence. While they talk, Juju expresses her desire to cosplay as Cheyenne Nikaido, a character from the anime Flower Princess Blaze, who Kitagawa is also a fan of. When Juju asks Kitagawa why she does not want to cosplay as Cheyenne despite this, she responds that their physiques do not match. As such, Juju gains immense respect for Kitagawa as a cosplayer. Before she leaves, Juju asks Gojo for his contact information. She then realizes that Gojo and Kitagawa are not dating. Juju declines Kitagawa's proposal to do a group cosplay until Kitagawa and Gojo offer to split the studio fees. Gojo decides to watch Flower Princess Blaze for research. Later that night, his grandfather praises his improvement and encourages him to practice his tailoring and makeup skills with Kitagawa. The next day, Gojo arrives at Kitagawa's apartment, only to find her disheveled. When she finally lets him in, she tells him they should watch the series together. As they do so, Kitagawa realizes she is having a home date with Gojo. Just then, her stomach grumbles, and he offers to buy something. However, Kitagawa insists on cooking a homemade meal. Despite not going as planned, Kitagawa is delighted when Gojo legitimately enjoys her omurus. Back home, Gojo calls Juju and sends her his detailed sketches. Juju is shocked to learn Kitagawa's outfit was his first cosplay project. Before they hang up, she explains her younger sister takes her pictures and agrees to meet at a restaurant. However, when Gojo and Kitagawa meet the shy and reserved Shinju Inui, they are blown away by her large size and voluptuous curves. Shinju shows Kitagawa the camera she uses to take Juju's pictures and begins explaining the different filters and settings. The group then visits the studio, located at an abandoned hospital. Inside, Shinju shows the benefits of backlit pictures to Kitagawa. Meanwhile, Gojo finds a scared Juju and they talk about their respective dreams. When she reveals why she chose him to make her cosplay outfit, Gojo recalls another conversation he had with his grandfather. As such, he joyously grabs Juju's hand, which causes her to pass out. After they finish their finals at school, Kitagawa invites Gojo to the beach. When they arrive there, a large sea hawk steals Kitagawa's burger. As they share the remaining burger, Kitagawa decides to enter the ocean. Once he joins her, Gojo reveals he never got to visit many places during his childhood due to his hobby. Stunned, Kitagawa tells him she will take him to many places during their summer vacation. Realizing what she just said, Kitagawa excuses herself. While she is alone, she swoons about the situation before taking a picture of Gojo. Gojo and Kitagawa arrive from the store with the materials for the black lobelia outfit. Kitagawa then shows Gojo a swimsuit under her clothes and asks him if he thinks it is proper for the cosplay. An embarrassed Gojo eventually tells her it is fine. Afterward, he is happy Kitagawa can finally experience the joy of being helpful. Sometime later, Gojo presents Juju and Kitagawa with their completed outfits before he does Kitagawa's makeup with Juju's guidance. The girls head to the hospital, waiting for Gojo and Shinju. When they finally arrive, Shinju stuns the girls with a male cosplay outfit. In a flashback to the day they first visited the hospital, after Juju and Kitagawa went home, Shinju confirmed Gojo's suspicion she actually wanted to cosplay as well. When he agreed to help her, she revealed she wanted to cosplay as Soma, a male character from Flower Princess Blaze. Once Gojo took Shinju to his shop, they learned about an item to deal with her chest called a beholder. They later had a conversation while working on Shinju's wig and makeup. Back in the present, everyone takes a group picture. In the hospital, Kitagawa and the Inui sisters have their photo shoot. Juju later thanks Gojo for helping Shinju realize her love of cosplay. Having finished, Juju and Shinju are at home, where Juju admits to Shinju she is jealous of her for pulling off such a cosplay. She then happily admires some pictures where Gojo appears. Meanwhile, Gojo is talking with Kitagawa on the phone, and she gets jealous when Gojo tells her Shinju was at his house. Sometime later, Kitagawa expresses her desire to cosplay as Veronica, a dark-skinned character, and they agree to get that effect digitally. However, Kitagawa appears at his house the next day with her skin completely darkened with foundation to match Veronica's skin color. After she bathes, she embarrasses him when she exposes herself to show him how to accomplish the outfit. Wanting to buy clothes for him, Kitagawa takes Gojo to the clothing store. Walking back, Gojo admits to Kitagawa he cannot help her with the Veronica outfit. Shocked and concerned, she asks him why, and he nervously tells her it is too revealing. Relieved, she teases him and agrees to choose her characters carefully. Kitagawa invites Gojo to a manga cafe, but Gojo feels embarrassed being alone with her. Kitagawa recommends a manga titled Sukaidk to Gojo and expresses her disappointment that she cannot pull off cosplaying as Liz the Succubus. However, with Gojo's encouragement she decides to try it. Gojo has a hard time designing the outfit due to the series' simple art style. They later meet for the photoshoot only to discover the studio Kitagawa booked is actually a love hotel. To get the desired camera angle for one shot, Kitagawa sits on top of Gojo. After taking the picture, Gojo hears a couple in another room having sex. Gojo panics and tries to get Kitagawa off of him by grabbing her waist, which startles her enough to inadvertently turn the lights off. Just as they slowly lean towards each other, the phone rings to inform them that their time in the room is over. Back home, Gojo thinks about Kitagawa while he is alone in his room. In her apartment, while Gojo helps Kitagawa with her hair ribbons, he discovers her father cancelled her invitation to go to a summer festival, as she had not done her homework. She tells Gojo she has been modeling for a magazine to save up for an expensive camera. When they decide to watch a horror movie, Gojo is nervous as he has not watched one before. However, by the end of the movie, he is analyzing the costumes, while Kitagawa is left scared. They then visit their school to retrieve Kitagawa's math drills, and Gojo saves Kitagawa from drowning when she slips into the pool. Having finished her homework, Kitagawa invites Gojo to the festival, and he is stunned by when she shows up in a yukata, making her happy. They watch the fireworks together, and Gojo carries Kitagawa home when her feet are bruised from walking on sandals. Back home, Kitagawa calls Gojo, telling him she wants to hear his voice, as she got scared after watching another horror movie alone. During their talk, Gojo begins to fall asleep, and hearing he has passed out, Kitagawa tells him she loves him. On the front lines of the Rhine, the Imperial Army engages in a prolonged battle against the Francois Republic. Second Lieutenant Tanya de Gurchaf leads the 3rd platoon of the Imperial Army's 205th Assault Mage Company, with Corporal Victoria Serebryakov as part of her team. When 2 mages under Tanya's command defy her orders, she relocates them to a safer position behind the lines. Subsequently, while en route to reinforce the 403rd Assault Mage Company, the 205th arrives too late to prevent the decimation of the 403rd by Republican Army mages. Tanya instructs the remaining 3 members of her platoon to regroup with other 205th members and confronts the Republican mages alone. Despite her demands for surrender being ignored, Tanya decisively neutralizes the opposing mages. Meanwhile, in the Republican capital, Heresy, military leaders discuss Tanya's formidable combat prowess, labeling her the Devil of the Rhine due to her fearsome reputation. At Imperial Strategic Headquarters in the capital city of Biran, Lieutenant Colonel Ryujin expresses concern over Tanya's deployment at the Rhine, referring to her as a monstrous presence disguised in a girl's form. Simultaneously, Victoria discovers that the insubordinate mages previously relocated by Tanya have perished due to enemy shelling of their position, a situation Tanya had foreseen and accounted for in her plans. In the bustling streets of Tokyo in 2013, a struggling salaryman faces dismissal from his job by his superior. In a startling turn of events, the supervisor is accidentally pushed onto the train tracks, halting time as he falls. Amidst the chaos, a voice proclaims itself as being X, challenging the supervisor to recognize its divine status. Refusing to accept this being as God, the supervisor is branded unfaithful by being X, leading to a radical decision. Being X transports the skeptical supervisor to an alternate version of Europe in 1913, intent on subjecting him to trials that will compel faith. Meanwhile, in the impoverished confines of a poorly funded orphanage in Biran, a young girl named Tanya exhibits exceptional magical abilities during routine evaluations. Determined to escape her bleak circumstances, Tanya enlists in the Imperial Army, believing it offers a superior life to the one she faces as an orphan during wartime. Rising through the ranks, she becomes a stringent instructor at a military academy, displaying uncompromising discipline that deeply concerns Ryujin, an observer. Years later, in 1923, a 9-year-old Tanya serves as an artillery observer during the initial invasion of the Empire by the Entente at the Northern Theater Force garrison. Tasked with stalling the 5th Aerial Mage Battalion led by Lieutenant Colonel Anson Su, Tanya bravely fulfills her duty despite sustaining severe injuries. injuries. Recognized for her valor, she receives the Silver Wings Assault Badge but hopes to avoid frontline deployment. Contrary to her wish, Tanya is celebrated as a hero of the Empire, adorned in ceremonial attire, an unexpected turn from her expectations. Following her recovery, Tanya finds herself relieved to be reassigned to the Tactical Instructor Squad, away from the intense frontline duties. Assigned to test the experimental Elenium Type 95 computation jewel, she faces peril comparable to combat due to its extreme instability. Despite Chief Development Engineer Adelheid von Schugel's relentless efforts, the Type 95 remains dangerously unstable. Displeased with the technology's shortcomings, Tanya requests a transfer, leading to the project's suspension. During a peculiar encounter, Being X manifests through a Nutcracker doll, questioning Tanya's lack of faith and insight. Unyielding, Tanya dismisses Being X's claims and destroys the doll. Dismissing it as a dream, she awakens to find a note reading Deus Lo Vault by her bedside, leaving her puzzled. Engaging in one final experiment, as the Type 95 approaches a catastrophic explosion, Being X intervenes, miraculously stabilizing the jewel to showcase his power to Tanya. Now, the Type 95 is exclusive to Tanya, significantly amplifying her abilities but tethered to the condition that she offer prayers to Being X, an aspect she perceives as a curse. The subsequent year sees Tanya redeploy to the front lines, leading up to the events of Episode 1. Recognizing her capabilities, Headquarters determines to enroll her in officer training and Tanya nominates Victoria for the same. Both prepare to return to Berun for their officer training, while Headquarters acknowledges the necessity of a swift response unit within the Imperial Army, realizing the importance of such a division. 6 months after leaving the front lines, Tanya is still training to be an officer at a military academy and is doing well at her studies. She meets General Zetur in the academy's library and he asks for her opinion on the war. She predicts that it will become a world war and outlines a strategy for the Empire, using the firepower and agility of mages to minimize military losses. He is impressed by her battle knowledge and ideas and asks for a report, which she sees as an opportunity for career advancement. Later, Tanya meets Captain Ugger, one of her academy rivals, in a cafe. Ugger reveals to Tanya that he is more concerned about his family than the war and of the future impact the war will have on his daughter, who he fears may one day be forced to fight. Tanya is able to emotionally manipulate him to drop out of academy in exchange for a safer line of work, securing her position as one of the elite students at the academy. Zetur passes Tanya's plan to General Kurt von Ruttersdorf. At a conference held at the Imperial Strategic Headquarters, Zetur tables Tanya's plan for a rapid response mage battalion, which is accepted. At the Western Theater garrison, Ryujin is furious when he learns that Tanya's plan has been implemented with her in command of the Rapid Reaction Force. Tanya is invited to dinner with the colonel, where she is put in charge of a new 48-strong rapid response mage battalion and will be promoted to the rank of captain. Much to her horror, this will actually be more dangerous than fighting on the front lines. She tries to find ways to delay the implementation of the battalion, especially after a large number of applications for the battalion are received, but a newly promoted Victoria is assigned to assist her, thus preventing Tanya from further delaying the formation of the battalion. Tanya holds a test to decide whether or not the mages who have sent in the applications are worthy of joining the new battalion, but most fail, resulting in a low recruitment rate, leading to her superiors complaining that her standards are set too high. Tanya accepts this compromise to accept more lower standard mages and declares that she will bring all the mages to an acceptable standard in just a month. She is granted free rein on how to go about it. She holds a grueling training regime, with many nearly dying, which she hopes would deter them from further training, but the mages are instead frightened that dropping out will incur even worse punishment and decide to continue. Some are even inspired to meet her lofty standards. Within a month, they have been successfully transformed into skilled soldiers, even by Tanya's standards. She then receives instructions to go with her battalion, named the 203rd Aerial Mage Battalion, or Pixie Battalion, to the Grand Duchy of Dacia, which has mobilized its troops and crossed imperial borders. There, the first battle the 203rd encounters is totally in their favor. The Dacians have no mages and still use techniques for outdated forms of warfare, even lacking the capability for the most basic of anti-aircraft operations. The Dacian attack is repulsed with ease by the elite 203rd, resulting in massive Dacian casualties. Tanya commands the 203rd to follow her to the Dacian capital to test their combat prowess, leaving the remainder of the Dacian invasion force to regular imperial forces. There, they locate the Republic-backed Carbelius arms factory that is undefended from aerial attack. Tanya orders the 203rd to attack it, but in accordance with international law, they can only destroy the factory if they have declared their intentions in advance, allowing for armed retaliation. This would give away the 203RD's surprise advantage. However, Tanya uses a childlike voice to broadcast her intentions to destroy the factory over a radio, which is dismissed by factory workers as a harmless child's prank, allowing the 203rd to completely destroy the factory. The 203rd, satisfied with their overwhelming success, returns to base. Headquarters concludes that Imperial troops should be able to completely occupy Dacia by winter and turns their attention to the fact that the Empire is still fighting on two fronts, against the Entente and the Republic. They decide to focus their efforts on destroying the Entente Entente first but are worried that there will not be sufficient supplies to do so, with there only being enough to last the Imperial army through winter. Finally, an order is sent for the 203rd to transfer to Norden against the Entente. Later, Tanya and Victoria discuss the possibility of the Entente being allied to the Republic and/or the Allied Kingdom, analogous to the United Kingdom, which is later shown to be true. Tanya realizes that Being X may be orchestrating the upcoming World War in order to force a situation wherein she would have no choice but to worship him. At Norden, Viper Battalion fights against attacking Entente forces but faces heavy losses. The 203rd comes in just in time to rescue Viper Battalion and to launch a counterattack. When offered to be reinforced by additional Imperial Army units, Tanya turns down the offer to create a reputation for the 203rd. She chooses to go after enemy bombers, leaving the rest of the 203rd to carry out the attack. After downing a flight of bombers and landing to look for survivors, Being X once again stops time and animates a dead Entente soldier, and asks Tanya how it feels to fight a war against the whole world. Tanya shoots Being X's avatar down and later eradicates a hidden Allied Kingdom observation post that was gathering data on her. At Paris, Lieutenant Colonel Zevran Bayantot informs General Pierre-Claude Lugo of the failure of the Entente's attacks and of Republican mage casualties, advising him to refrain from sending more Republican mages to assist the Entente. However, Lugo refuses, seemingly under the influence of Being X. In the Entente Ministry of Defense, it is revealed that Anson Su has been promoted to colonel, but is worried about dying and leaving his wife and daughter, Mary Sue, behind. At Port Arnelis, Colonel Su bids farewell to his family as he leaves for his post at the relatively quiet Orsfjord, located far from the front. Sometime later, he discovers that he had received a rifle from his daughter as an early Christmas present. Meanwhile, at the Imperial Army Northern Theater Command Strategy Conference, Tanya proposes a strategic retreat, thus shortening supply lines for retreating Imperial forces, allowing the Imperial Army to resupply and making it easier for them to launch an offensive in spring. She asserts that while the retreat would continue the war, an offensive at the moment would exhaust the Imperial Army in Norden, thus limiting its effectiveness. Despite this, it is decided that an offensive would be carried out regardless of the potential losses. Afterwards, during a conversation with Rugen and Rudersdorf, she deduces that the offensive's main purpose is to be a diversion for Imperial forces to launch an amphibious offensive at the rear of the enemy. Rudersdorf decides to send the 203rd to launch a surprise attack at the heavily defended Orsfjord in advance of their North Sea fleet. During the attack, the 203rd is intercepted by a battalion-sized unit of mages led by Colonel Su. Tanya leads the first company in intercepting enemy mages while the second and third companies destroy the defensive cannons located along the coast, allowing the fleet to land and take control of the railroads, in turn allowing for Imperial forces to take over the port. Su's mages are devastated by the first company. In a final confrontation, Tanya bayonets Su, who falls into the sea. Tanya recovers Su's rifle and claims it as her own. Mary Sue and her mother in Arkansas hear over the radio that the Orsfjord's defenders were wiped out, causing Mary to cry. The Entente and the Republican Army's 2nd Mage Company support a rebel uprising in Arene City against Imperial occupiers, located in former Republican territory in the Western Theater. This is a problem because the Arene rebels now control the large railroad that passes through Arene, which is straining Imperial supply lines. The 203rd are ordered to intercept and destroy all resistance even if it means civilian casualties. They find the city heavily defended. However, Strategic Command has a plan to rapidly suppress the Arene rebellion, as in accordance to international law, should a city not be evacuated after an evacuation order, all remaining people in a city will be treated as enemy soldiers. After a fierce attack by the 203rd, battered Republican mages seek shelter in a building. Following a refusal to surrender or evacuate, the 203rd observes the murder of a captured Imperial soldier by Arene rebels, providing a casus belli for retaliation. Arene comes under sustained attack from Imperial artillery, causing countless civilian deaths. The Republican mages are driven off completely and control of Arene is returned to the Empire. 2nd Lieutenant Vuren Grants refuses to open fire at the Arene rebels, but Tanya pressures him into doing so. At strategic headquarters, Zetter reveals to Rugen that the idea for the destruction of Arene actually came from a thesis written by Tanya that details methods to circumvent international laws on city bombardment. At an Allied Kingdom hospital, the critically wounded Colonel Su slowly recovers from his encounter with Tanya and says that God told him to destroy the devil. In the aftermath of the Arene battle, Tanya reconnects with Major Ugger, who unveils an intricate scheme, dubbed Operation Revolving Door, aimed at luring Republican forces into a strategic trap. This multifaceted plan comprises 4 distinct phases. Proposing this strategy at the Command Strategy Conference, Zetur orchestrates the utilization of the 203rd to strike the rear of the Republican forces. The Empire initiates the first phase, Operation Fog and Sun, deploying an extensive disinformation campaign to deceive the Republican forces into believing in a large-scale Imperial retreat. Concurrently, Rugen briefs Tanya on the second phase, Operation Shock and Awe, designed to dismantle Republican command headquarters and disrupt their communication networks. Shuggle introduces a cutting-edge weapon, the V-1 high-speed rocket, slated to transport the 203rd 203rd to 3 potential enemy headquarters locations. Meanwhile, at the Rhine, Imperial troops execute a tactical retreat from the front line, seemingly allowing the confident advance of the Republican forces. However, unbeknownst to the advancing Republicans, the Imperial army strategically places booby traps during their withdrawal, setting the stage for unforeseen obstacles. Su is shown to have survived, and seen to be traveling on an allied kingdom ship and plotting his revenge on Tanya. Following the success of Operation Shock and Awe, the 203rd proceeds to retreat via submarine. At the Imperial High Council, various military leaders undergo a grilling by government officials on their strategy of withdrawal, accused of exposing Imperial manufacturing facilities to potential Republican attack. They delay their response, stalling for time while they wait for Tanya's unit to report on their status. Finally, Zetter announces to the Imperial High Council that the enemy command structure has been destroyed and the commencement of the third phase of Operation Lockpick. It starts with the detonation of the traps left behind by the retreating Imperial army, resulting in widespread Republican losses. Without communications, the Republican forces are in disarray and suffer a sustained counterattack by Imperial heavy armor and mechanized infantry who completely encircle Republican forces. During an investigation on the cause of the communications breakdown, Bientôt arrives at the ruins of the Republican Army's headquarters and is horrified. The 203rd takes part in the fourth phase of Operation Revolving Door, a series of mop-up operations against Republican Army remnants, but suddenly come under attack from an allied Kingdom Mage unit with long-range weapons led by Su. The dwindled 203rd refuses to retreat and seizes the offensive, leveraging their altitude advantage. However, they endure severe losses, especially under Su's devastatingly enhanced trench gun. Tanya confronts Su in a face-to-face encounter, recognizing him from their prior engagement. But a startling revelation occurs when she realizes Su is under the influence of being X, leading to a gripping struggle. With Victoria's assistance, Tanya breaks free, relentlessly firing into Su despite his magical defenses. Su, battered by bullets, triggers an explosive, yet Tanya and Victoria withstand the blast, narrowly escaping harm. Just in time, Imperial reinforcements swoop in, driving off the allied Kingdom Mages. Remarkably, most of the 203rd survives despite the casualties. The impactful losses inflicted upon the Republican forces due to the Operation Revolving Door compel their abandonment of Paris Sea. Imperial forces swiftly occupy the city, marking a significant triumph. The Imperial High Council commends the military's success and deliberates on acquiring the Republic's colonies. As the men of the 203rd celebrate on a Republican beach, Tanya and Victoria contemplate the war's conclusion. Tanya suspects the Republic's intentions to evacuate by sea, preparing for a counteroffensive. Desiring to strike at the Republican military port of Brest, Tanya seeks permission, only to face refusal. Furthermore, she's restricted from conducting her own reconnaissance, a missed opportunity that leaves her frustrated about potentially concluding the war. As the Empire revels in the temporary truce signaling a potential armistice and the end of the war, Tanya confides in Rugen, acknowledging her realization that the cessation of hostilities is but a temporary respite. She understands that the Republic and other nations, unwilling to accept the Empire's ascent to unrivaled power, will inevitably reignite conflict, an inherent aspect of human nature. The Empire's remarkable growth prompts the remaining global powers, the Allied Kingdom, and Unified States, to forge an alliance against the Empire. Amidst this tense atmosphere, General Lugo's proclamation of the Free Republic's emergence from Tunis shatters the Empire's hopes for a lasting peace. Citizens and soldiers alike comprehend that the war persists. As battles reignite, Tanya and her squad receive orders to embark on African soil to confront the Free Republic. In the Unified States, Mary Sue, endowed with being X's blessing, enlists in the U.S. Army, driven by a quest for vengeance against Tanya for her father's demise, setting the stage for a clash between two empowered individuals amidst the escalating global conflict. Is now a retelling of the anime Undefeated Bahamut Chronicle. 5 years ago, the Arcadia Empire is overthrown in a coup d'etat when a lone warrior, using a black drag ride, destroys 1,200 of the Empire's drag riders and became known as the Black Hero. In the present, Lux Arcadia, ex-prince of the Empire now working as a handyman, falls through the roof of the Royal Knights Academy bathroom onto Princess Lyshart Lisha Atismata of the Atismatan Kingdom and sees a brand on her stomach. She challenges him to a duel despite Lux being undefeated in battle. Lux meets his sister, ex-Princess Ari Arcadia, who demands he win the duel. As former royalty, they have to pay a massive fine to the current royal family, and if Lux goes to prison, Ari will have to pay the fine herself. During the duel, Lux's white sword and white drag ride are damaged. He insists on continuing with his broken sword, refusing to use his black sword. A cloaked person uses a horn whistle to summon an abyss dragon. Lux allows himself to be injured, giving Lisha the time to destroy the abyss. Lisha falls in love with Lux as he is the first man to try protect her. She asks him to keep her brand a secret, as it is the crest of the former Arcadia Empire. Lux is made an official academy student. Lux meets his childhood friend Philippi Ingram, the headmistress's sister, making Lisha jealous. When the female students learn Lux is a handyman, they swamp him with requests, including Krolsifer Einfolk, who wants him to find the Black Hero. Lux later wakes up to Fi in his bed, claiming she is his roommate. Lisha repairs Lux's broken white sword before explaining that as her father had been leader of the coup d'etat, she was kidnapped and branded as proof she was the Empire's property. When the Black Hero won the war, Lisha replaced her dead father as Princess of Atismata, and her brand was kept secret. An abyss appears and Lisha takes a team to kill it. The abyss is being controlled with the horn whistle by Ragreed Forrest, a former knight still loyal to the Arcadia Empire. He overwhelms Lisha and reminds her he was the one who branded her. Lux arrives and unsheathes his black sword, transforming into a black dragride, revealing himself as the Black Hero. He easily destroys the abyss and kills Ragreed with his ability Reload on Fire. Eri laments her brother is not a hero, he is the weakest Undefeated who betrayed his own empire. Lux is hailed as a hero. Lisha agrees to keep his identity as the Black Hero a secret. Relai sets up a game where the girl who steals a red request paper from Lux within 1 hour will get him as her servant for a week. Lux is caught by Lisha, but he escapes. He is then captured by Fi, but also tricks her into letting him go. With only 10 minutes left, he is trapped in a changing room when several girls including Krolsifer enter and strip to their underwear. He is spotted by Krolsifer, who lets him remain hidden. Claiming the game is over, she asks to see the red paper and he hands it over just as the bell sounds, signaling the real end of the game with Krolsifer the winner. Relai believes the horn whistle used by Ragreed is the key to a secret in the ancient ruins and asks Lux to go there. Eri warns Lux to be careful with Krolsifer as she is a noble of the Emer theocracy and is expected to marry another noble and will soon meet her future fiancé. Wanting to avoid this, she asks Lux to pose as her boyfriend, making Lisha jealous. Krolsifer and Lux are attacked by thieves during their date. Krolsifer uses her ability to see into the future and defeats them. They meet Alterise, Krolsifer's female butler, who is shocked Krolsifer has a boyfriend. Later, they meet the arrogant Lord Kreutzer Balzeride, Krolsifer's fiancé. Krolsifer claims Lux is her boyfriend. Outraged Krolsifer would choose an ex-prince over himself. Kreutzer challenges Lux to a duel in 3 days. Kreutzer discusses the ancient ruins with a hooded man. Lux is exhausted from his handyman job, so Tilfer Lilimit, a friend of Lisha, drags him to her room where she, Lisha, and Fi help him relax. The four noble families discuss the Ragnaroks, immensely powerful abyss dragons imprisoned beneath ancient ruin across the country. One such Ragnarok may soon escape and the kingdom does not have the military power to stop it. Kreutzer is tasked with entering the ruins to find powerful weapons. Relai gathers Lux and his friends to investigate the ruins. As the horn whistle is the key to entering, she gives it to Lux. Krolsifer goes with them, though she admits she has her own reasons. Fi gets into the bath with a flustered Lux, who notices an old scar on her back has disappeared. Kreutzer reveals he will be joining Lux and his team, angering Krolsifer. At the ruins, the team is attacked by a Diablos-level abyss. The abyss almost breaks Lux's white sword before Krolsifer shoots it. Kreutzer announces that if Lux defeats the abyss, before he does he will call off their duel. Krolsifer shoots at the abyss, but has lost her ability to see the future. Kreutzer succeeds in killing the abyss first. Lux and Krolsifer head for the altar at the center of the ruins. Krolsifer believes that the Black Hero is capable of piloting his dragride indefinitely, whereas most people would eventually run out of power. She hopes to find that the Black Hero is the same as she is. They arrive at the altar, but before Lux can unlock it with the whistle, it unlocks automatically for Krolsifer, who reveals she is really a surviving citizen of the ancient ruins. Lux and Krolsifer become trapped by rubble. Krolsifer explains she was found as a baby by the Earl of the Emer theocracy, who thought she might be valuable. Krolsifer worked hard to become a drag knight, making her adopted siblings jealous. She came to the ruins to prove she was human, but now accepts she is not. Lux reveals his mother and sister were banished from the royal family, and when Lux's mother was injured, the citizens who suffered under the empire let her die. Lisha appears and free them. Lux hides the truth about Krolsifer, claiming the horn whistle is not a key to the lower levels. Krolsifer has Eri drug Lux and attends the duel in his place. Krolsifer loses her future seeing ability and is defeated. Kreutzer admits he knows Krolsifer is a citizen of the ruins and plans on using her to access and use the advanced technology to destroy the Ragnaroks, reasoning that sacrificing Krolsifer is a small price to pay. Lux attacks Kreutzer, revealing his Black Hero form to Krolsifer. When Kreutzer uses Krolsifer's future-seeing ability, Lux realizes Kreutzer's ability allows him to steal the abilities of others. Kreutzer attempts to shoot Krolsifer as a plot to steal Lux's super speed, but on seeing Krolsifer cry, Lux states it is his duty to protect his girlfriend and activates a secret ability he designed himself, Recoil Burst, that focuses all his energy into a single attack, defeating Kreutzer. Afterwards, Lux is told that by defeating her previous fiancé he is Krulsifer's new fiancé. Krulsifer admits Lux managed to impress her and kisses him twice in front of a furious Lisha. Lux is asked to investigate rumors about a suspicious person lurking around the campus. To this end, Lux is forced to cross-dress to avoid suspicion. During his rounds, he sees a girl talking to a cat just as he is assaulted by the suspicious prowler. He is saved by the girl, who introduces herself as Celestia Seals Ralgris, a daughter of a high-ranking noble, strongest third-year student of the academy, and a known man-hater. Lux claims he is a girl called Luno. Kreutzer is murdered in prison by his hooded partner. Later, Lux, as himself, meets Seals, who insists he leave the academy. However, the knowledge of Ragnarok's revival makes Lux oppose her as he believes she cannot defeat it on her own. Rely arranges a formal match in which if Lux wins, he may stay but must leave if Seals wins. The next day, the members of the Chivalric Order, led by Seals, travels to Rise Island for a training camp where Lux notices a large building at the top of a mountain. Later that night, Lux is called for a massage request only to learn that the client is Seals, and he quickly cross-dresses into Luno before he is seen. Seals invites him to tour the town the next day, where she goes shopping for a swimsuit. While resting in the shade outside town, Seals reveals that she, in fact, does not hate men. It was just a misunderstanding that has never been resolved. Soldiers locate the fossilized Ragnarok only to find that the husk is empty. The students enjoy free time at the beach. Lux recalls what he and Seals talked about yesterday, where she also reveals that she was trained by Lux's maternal grandfather, who had died in prison because he spoke out against the Empire's corruption, and she only wants Lux out of the school to protect him. Lux and Celestia's battle finally begins, with the latter holding the advantage. As the match goes on, the Triad locate the suspicious prowler from the academy, who is revealed to be Sanya, who is actually a spy for the Heiberg Republic and has been stealing information from the academy. Sanya admits that her mission is to topple the kingdom just as the revived Ragnarok appears, interrupting Lux and Seals' battle. Celestia appears to defeat it on her own until Kreutzer's mysterious partner appears and revives it using a flute, and Sanya attacks Celestia, who is shocked at the betrayal. Defeated, Seals tells Lux everything, but he reveals that he already knows when he exposes himself as Luno. Equipping Bahamut, Lux attacks and quickly defeats the Ragnarok, but its core is saved by Sanya. The hooded figure introduces herself as Hayes of the Heiberg Republic, who bears a resemblance to Lux and Eri. She hints to Lux that he had forgotten a tragic incident on the island 5 years ago, and the two flee. Later that night, Seals expresses her anger at being deceived by Lux, but she eventually forgives him and allows him to stay at the academy. Lux later tries to remember what took place on the island 5 years ago, and he sees flashes of the large building and a room with young girls on a bed while covered in blood. As he tries to remember more, his head begins to hurt and an earthquake suddenly hits as new ruins appears out from the sea. A flashback of Philippi and Lux when they were kids is seen. Lux visits her in her room and she says that she is going to participate in the ruin investigation, but Lux expresses his worry over her health, though she assures him that she is fine. Lux is inspecting his Bahamut drag ride, which has been modified by Lisha in preparation for the ruin investigation. As the investigation begins, Lux and the girls travel inside the ruins and are surprised to find a destroyed ecosystem, and suggests that a war took place based on the destruction. The group decides to split up in order to cover more ground. Lux, Noct, and Ares' group discover a young girl covered in rubble. The group calls Krulsifer to check on the girl, who awakens at her touch. Krulsifer sees that she is not human, and the girl introduces herself as La Crush, the supervisor of the ruins, and she refers to Krulsifer as administrator. La Crush explains that she had lost most of memories and data due to her long slumber, and confirms that most of the ruins' functions have been suspended. Meanwhile, the Queen of Atismata and the four great nobles meet and discuss Ragreed's escape and plot to attack the kingdom. However, the army lacks manpower due to an insufficient number of drag rides, so one of the nobles suggests using the students of the academy to make up for this, but Seal's father opposes the idea. The noble also notes that Lux is the only one who could defeat the Ragnarok, while admitting his plan to having the former prince work for them in the near future. Back in the ruins, Lux is carrying a tired Phi as they enter a room where the abyss were being created. Phi suddenly experiences a headache and warns them of incoming danger as an abyss suddenly appears and attacks them. La Crush explains that when the ruins enter a state of alert, 3 abyss are released to protect it. Lux suggests escaping the ruins, but an unusually stern Rely insists on continuing, and Phi equips her drag ride and heads off with Lux in pursuit. They leave the ruins and confront the remaining abyss, but Phi is thrown into the old building on the mountain and Lux starts to remember more about the past. He enters the building and remembers that it was once used as a place for human experimentation by the old empire, and Phi was one of the victims. He finds Phi only to be attacked by her as she smiles maniacally and her eyes emit an inhuman glow. A brief flashback sees a young Phi and Lux saying their goodbyes as they separate. In the present, Phi continues to strangle Lux, but she suddenly passes out and Hayes appears beside them. Back in the ruins, Lisha and Krulsifer defeat the remaining abyss. Eri tells them that they had discovered the entrance to the the deepest parts of the ruins, but they lack a key to enter. Back in the old building, Lux confronts Hayes, but she warns him that if she dies, Phi dies too. Hayes explains that she planted a seed of Ragnarok inside Phi and that she is slowly turning into an abyss as her body is being eaten from the inside. Hayes also reveals that Phi had been resisting her commands, which explains her fever and headaches. She then offers Lux a deal in which she will command the Ragnarok to save Phi, who will die in a few days in her current state, but in exchange, Lux must open the entrance to the deepest part of the ruins using Krulsifer as the key, but he is given a time limit of 2 days to accomplish this. Later, Lux meets with Relai, who reveals that Phi supposedly died due to the inhumane experiments conducted on her 5 years ago, but she awoke stronger than before, but at a terrible price. Relai also reveals that her determination to explore the deepest areas of the ruins is because she hopes to find something that can cure Phi. The next day, Lux reminisces about his past again while his Bahamut undergoes maintenance. To his and Aries' shock, they are suddenly contacted by their Fugil, who explains that the only way to save Phi is to destroy the Ragnarok controlling her and Hayes' horn. Before returning to the ruins, Lux visits Phi, who reveals that she knows the truth of her condition but states she is satisfied as both Lux and Relai have grown strong over the years. The group opens the entrance to ruins' deepest area with Krulsifer's help, and La Crush, whose memory has recovered, attacks them as Hayes appears with Phi under her control. Aerie, who also possesses a horn, allows Phi to regain control of herself and breaks Hayes' horn in the process, but the Ragnarok is revived. Despite their best efforts, the group is overwhelmed until Lux unleashes Bahamut's full power and defeats the Ragnarok. Fugil convinces Hayes to retreat as the ruins begin to collapse and La Crush loses consciousness. As Lux recovers, he is assured by Phi that she can resist the horn and thanks him for saving her. Everyone celebrates Lux's recovery after returning home from training camp. Aerie mentions that the heroines were the ones who took care of Lux, although they would argue who would do the task. Relai reveals that she was berated for her act of investigating the ruins without permission, but she explains that she got off lightly due to the kingdom's foundation festival taking place soon. Forced into a corner, Lux divides his time between the girls, starting with Aerie. While they walk around the city, Aerie explains that a drag ride tournament will take place during the festival. She also warns him that the Empire's assassin Blade, the strongest drag knight serving under the Emperor, has escaped from prison and that Lux is their target as he destroyed the Empire. They later separate and Lux meets up with Seals, who had dressed formally for the occasion. Lux, on the other hand, is made to wear a butler uniform to avoid being recognized by the other students, and they happily roam the city. After their date, Lux, now dressed formally, is then taken by the Triad to Krulsifer for his next date, which is a social gathering. After a dance, they step out into a balcony where Krulsifer kisses Lux again and reveals that her maid, Alterize, also attended the gathering to monitor them. Lux is then taken to Phi and they spend their date in a church where Lux rests on her lap while she once again thanks him for saving her as Relai happily watches them with the Triad nearby. As Lux returns to the school, he met by Lisha, who requests him to be her knight and that she would like to present him as such to the public when she makes her speech at the festival's end, but Lux says that he will think about it. The next day, as Lux and Aerie are talking alone, they are met by the aforementioned escapee, who introduces herself as Yorika Kiriheim, who calls Lux her master due to a contract she made with his father years ago and is willing to do whatever he says. Shocked by this, Lux has her wait until the festival ends so that he can speak with her properly. Later that night, while Lux is bathing, Yorika joins him, causing him to scream in surprise, and they are discovered by the Triad and an angry Lisha. After bathing and calming everyone down, Lux questions Yorika about her intentions. She does not answer and instead asks Lux how long he intends to deceive everyone, as he is more than capable of destroying the new kingdom and re-establishing the empire, but Lux replies that he does not desire to. Yorika is then attacked by the girls, but she fights back with her own divine drag ride and eventually flees, while Sonia, Ragreed, and Hayes, who were the ones that freed Yorika, watch from afar. Lisha is practicing her speech for the festival as Lux enters her room and they discuss Lisha's offer from the other day. Meanwhile, Hayes, Sonia, and Yorika are inside another ruin which they activate. Lux and Aerie are then summoned by the nobles to discuss a plot by Ragreed to overthrow the new kingdom, which will take place after the drag ride tournament. Lux is ordered to act as a decoy to lure out over 100 abyss that are hiding in uninhabited villages near the kingdom with the promise of overlooking the Rise Island incident. They also order Lux to win the upcoming tournament and he agrees to do both, though Aerie is against this. Upon returning to the academy, Lux asks Lisha to once again modify his wyvern drag ride, but he spots Yorika. He finds her and they talk about her reasons for serving him even though the empire is no more. She explains that it is due to a promise she made with her deceased younger brother, and she makes clear her intention to destroy the new kingdom and restore the empire in order order to fulfill her contract. When Lux still refuses to destroy the kingdom, Yorika declares him her enemy and leaves. During the tournament, Lux wins his match, but Krulsifer notices that Lux is rushing his victory, unlike his normal strategy. After the match, Lux asks Eri to relay a message to everyone should he not return for the group battle tournament. Later, Leisha's own match begins and things proceed smoothly until Yorika manipulates Leisha's drag ride and makes it attack the audience. Leisha is then imprisoned and her drag ride is confiscated. Meanwhile, Lux discovers Tanya, who unleashes the abyss, which she then lures to the kingdom's soldiers who destroy them. Keeping her promise to Lux, Eri reveals the operation to the girls who decide to try and find Yorika and rescue Leisha. As Lux is resting, the insurgents, led by Ragreed, attack and kill the remaining soldiers while the main force retreats. Back in the academy, the girls learn of the insurgents' attack and that they are advancing to the capital. Lux engages Ragreed, who reveals that a giant stone golem, piloted by Hayes, is approaching the capital and Lux is forced to use Bahamut despite knowing that he can only use it for 12 minutes. Lux continues to battle Ragreed, who severs Bahamut's arm only to learn that it was actually a wyvern disguised as Bahamut. Lux quickly defeats Ragreed and his men and heads for the capital while making contact with Eri. Meanwhile, Leisha is visited by Tanya, who derides her and has one of her soldiers strip Leisha down as she is curious to see the Empire's brand below her stomach, but Lux arrives in time to stop them. He convinces a depressed and guilty Leisha to help him fight. Hayes orders the new kingdom to surrender or die but is attacked and temporarily subdued by Lux, Leisha, Krulsifer and Phi. Lux asks the latter two to destroy the remaining abyss and insurgents while he and Leisha destroys the giant. They are then met by Hayes in her own divine drag ride, who splits the city in two with a single attack. Meanwhile, Seals confronts Tanya, who is threatening the nobles. While Lux looks for a way inside the giant, Leisha fights Hayes alone but is clearly outmatched. As Lux finds an entrance, he is confronted by Yorika, who intends to revive the Empire under Eri, instead as Lux still refuses to reconsider her offer. Lux again questions her reasons for reviving the Empire and she finally tells him the full story. Yorika was a princess while her twin brother was the young ruler of their kingdom after their father died of an illness. In exchange for Yorika's cooperation with the Empire, her brother would be spared, but while she was away, her brother was killed by the nobles of their kingdom as a peace offering when they decided to put the blame on him after they surrendered to the Empire. Yorika kills the nobles in revenge, but decides to honor her contract to the Empire, believing it was her fate. Lux, however, compares her to Leisha, who is trying her best despite her unwilling position as the kingdom's princess. They continue to battle and Lux eventually wins by taking advantage of Yorika's brief distraction when he mentioned her brother in a speech. Lux explains that he wished to change the country for the better, but he failed. In order for him to accomplish this, he had to destroy the Empire first and rebuild it from the ground up, thus making Yorika understand that everything Lux had done was for the Empire. Seals defeats Tanya, but the giant recovers and prepares to attack the capital, but Yorika, who decided to serve Lux again, betrays Hayes and destroys the giant's controls at the last second. Infuriated, Hayes tries to destroy the capital alone but is finally defeated by Lux. At the end of the festival, Leisha makes her speech and announces Lux as her knight to the public, who give their approval. During the party, Lux sees Fugil, who is holding what appears to be Bahamut's sword device, then quietly walks away. Lux is then greeted by the girls, including Yorika, who openly flirts with him, and an angry Leisha demands that Lux declares which girl he loves. The meaning of Undefeated Bahamut Chronicle revolves around themes of redemption, courage, and the pursuit of justice. Lux's past is marked by tragedy and political upheaval, but the series portrays his journey to overcome his troubled history and strive for a better future. The fantasy world in which the story is set is rich with political intrigue, magical battles, and complex relationships, adding depth to the narrative. Moral messages within the series include the importance of personal growth, forgiveness, and the willingness to confront one's past mistakes. Lux's character development is central to these themes, as he seeks to atone for the sins of his empire and forge a new path. The anime also explores the dynamics of power, responsibility, and the consequences of war. Thank you for watching. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel because it is very important for the development of the channel.